Welcome back to Bard and Barrel, your one-stop shop for all DM tips. I'm Christian,
And I'm Riley.
and today we are talking about the four main things that are slowing down your combat encounters. And we're going to give you tips on what you can do to mitigate each of those and speed up your combat encounters, speed up your sessions, fit more combat in, play more D&D, have more fun. You ready?
Let's get into it.
All right, so let's talk about what is slowing down your combat. Over our many years of playing D&D, we've seen a lot of combat encounters drag on and on and on. And so what we've done is we've looked way back into the history of our minds and picked out four main points that are really slowing combat encounters down. The very first one is your players are not ready when it hits their turn.
Second point, in general, they just don't know their characters very well. Number 3 is on the DM. You're not prepared for the encounter or for the game session in general.
And finally, maybe your combat's really large. There's a lot of enemies, there's a lot to deal with, and so that can really slow things down. We're going to go through each of these points and give you a solution so that you can speed up your combat.
All right, so let's start with our first point, where players are not ready on their turn. This is ultimately not something that you as a DM can fix because you're not the player in this scenario, but there are things that you can do to help them be prepared for their turn. One thing that I have loved to do is, as part of keeping initiative, I keep it open. Everyone knows what the initiative is, who's going next, and if it's the barbarian's turn, I let, Jeffrey know that he is on deck. He is next in line so that he can be preparing what he wants to do on his turn as we move forward, and it keeps the flow of combat smooth.
A lot of times, too, when there's a lot of frequent combat back to back, it helps to maybe just keep that same initiative roll. Then you know, hey, Joe is in front of me, then Bob, me is next, and then Jimmy's behind me, right?
I guess another thing with this too, as you move forward, is keeping track of conditions that players and enemies alike might have that could affect their turn, such as being poisoned or frozen, or they're going to be petrified because they failed their last save. Things like that. Maybe let them know that it's their upcoming turn. Say, Jimmy, remember as well, you are poisoned until the end of your next turn.
Okay, let's look at the second piece to the player side, which is them not knowing their character. One of the things that we've found that's most helpful is setting the precedent from the beginning. If you can have a really good session zero where you are helping them build out their character and they're choosing their feats, they're choosing their different items, it is their character, it's not you building it for them and giving it to them. For someone who's at least played before, that makes a huge difference because they're like, oh yeah, I remembered I selected this and I remember I did this.
You can also, if you feel it's necessary, especially for new players, you could even create a cheat sheet. The player character sheet in general can be a little overwhelming for new players. Even if that's something, if you just longsword is just a d6 plus 5 damage, or however you want to set that up, just to help them have a easier time. Just like, okay, all my attacks are on this card. What is it that I'm using? And let's go to that. All right, so let's switch it up a little bit now, and let's talk about your preparation for the encounter itself. Let's say, for example, that this is a prepared encounter that you know is going to happen for this session, having an idea of the monsters and what they're capable of. Okay, you got 8 people involved with this. Maybe there's a contingency for others that could join in based off of certain events. What does that trigger? And maybe even the first round of combat, what everyone on your side is going to do first round.
Alongside being prepped for the encounters, you got to know your rules. Now, inevitably, something's going to come up that you're not going to know the rule on. Riley is a rule lawyer, and he still doesn't know how to rule things sometimes when things come up in the game. So we're not saying that you need to know every single rule in the book by page number. What we are saying is try to avoid looking up rules during the game because this will tank how quickly that encounter can move. Our advice would just be make a ruling. It might not be the official ruling, that's okay. Say, hey guys, we're going to do it this way for now, and then I'm going to make a note of it and I'm going to look it up at the end of this session and correct it going forward for the next session. Simple as that. Keep combat moving because that can really slow things down, especially if you don't know where it is. It could take 10, 20 minutes to figure out what the ruling is, and it might be ambiguous. Then you're going to spend 15 more minutes debating it with your players. Just make a ruling, make it happen. All right, so let's talk about our final point, which is large combat encounters. When you've got hundreds of enemies out on the field, you've got to track their initiatives and you're tracking their HP, and you're going to be way too overwhelmed. So there's actually some official ruling. It's called mob ruling. In your 2014 DMG, it's on page 250, and in the 2024 DMG, it's on page 82. You're going to find things in there that is going to be guidance on how to group enemies together and use one initiative for them, how to attack as an entire group, as well as how to take damage of area effects. There's a table that you can roll on that will help you identify how many people died or how much damage you dealt, things like that. Great ruling can really speed up your combat encounters that are large.
Let's paint a picture here. Let's say you've got 8 guards, you've got 3 berserkers, 2 archers, a wizard, and the big baddie. Once you get above about 6 enemies, especially if you have 6 of the same type, group those up. You have maybe 4 or 5 initiatives throughout all 12 enemies, or however many I just said. They all go together. Worst part for the player is to have 2 attacks and sit around while the DM plays for the next hour because they have 40 people that they got to roll for. There's a reason why I get on my phone and I relax. It can really clutter up the battlefield.
And that is it. Those are the 4 main points that you can focus on to help speed up your combat encounters. Again, just make sure that your players are prepared. You, as the DM, are also prepared. And make sure that when you're having those larger combat encounters that you're trying everything you can to help speed those up. Get out there, play some D&D, have some fun. We'll catch you next time here on Bard and Barrel.